All right. So welcome to Indy Xamarin. Thank you for joining us tonight. Very excited to have everyone. Very excited about tonight's presentation. We meet on the fourth Wednesday of every month, generally. Sometimes, we have to reschedule, not, like holidays or, what have you. So thank you for joining us tonight. You should be able to see all of our upcoming presentations as well. We try to schedule a few months in advance, so there's always something to do. We're brought to you by Sandy Solutions, Launch Fishers, mFractor, and RevDebug. A little bit about them. Sandy is a professional services organization here in Indiana, based out of Indianapolis. Launch Fishers, when we meet in person, gives us space. They've got a whole theater, and it's very cool, but COVID, right? So hopefully in the next year, we can meet again and live stream it, because the live streaming has been great. It's we generally had good attendance before, but the live streaming has just opened up an entirely new door, because people can watch it later. They can join from any time zone. They don't have to drive to us. It's great. mFractor, very cool utility for debugging. Lets you replay your entire debugging session with variable states, and it's free. They have a DevOps version that's not free. That's pretty cool, but the regular mFractor plugin is free. And then RevDebug, which if you don't have it, you should get it. It does for I'm sorry, I mixed these up. RevDebug is the one that has all the great features that's free. mFractor it does for Xamarin development what ReSharper does. Just makes everything easier and better. So it's mFractor is not free, but is worth every penny. It's a complete Xamarin toolkit. It'll change your life, like automatically creating all your app icons for you, automatically importing images, managing fonts, all of that. There's a whole bunch of XAML tweaks and optimizations. It's awesome. So tonight we've got Matt Soucoup. Soucoup. Sorry, I said that wrong for a moment, Matt. And I'm like, I'm going to say Matt's name right this time. He's going to be presenting on Shell UI and Xamarin.Forms. Super excited about this. Shell is just a very cool thing, and Matt's going to share his passion for that with you. Very excited for that. We'll get started with Matt in a moment. We're also part of the .NET Foundation, which sponsors the .NET Foundation or manages the .NET Foundation virtual user group. This is cool. We're part of it. But you can find something .NET almost any day of the week just by going to this Meetup site. And so what we do, we publish our Meetup as part of it. So imagine all the .NET-based Meetups, which of course includes Xamarin, all being found in one place. So, kind of like subscribe to this one, and you're going to find out about many of them. And hackathons are back, baby. The Indy Civic Hackathon. I'm so excited about this. I'm vaccinated, so I think this is something I'm going to go to. It's August 13th through the 29th. So clearly it's not overnight. But go check it out. IndyCivicHack.org. Always doing good things for the community. I've seen a lot of amazing stuff come out of this. All right, and Matt, without further ado. Matt Soucoup. I think I made you a presenter. Right. Did I not make you a presenter, Matt? Hold on.
I am not a presenter yet.
Let me make you a presenter.
All right, good.
Otherwise,
I have to email you my slides and tell you to go next. All right, I'm a presenter. Awesome.
There you go. And you've got the whole professional rig going on there.
I do. Yeah, I can tap on my mic and make all those weird sounds.
This is nice. I've never seen your studio.
Yeah, it's the upstairs. It's the south facing bedroom. So you can imagine how hot it's been the last couple of days in here. Yeah. we ceded the high ground when we're relegated to the basement the last couple of days. But right now it's I'm in Seattle, so
Oh,
right
that's
now it's
right. Yeah. So
yeah
you've got power lines melting and stuff, right?
yeah, but it's a nice 73 degrees right now, so
Ooh,
it's nice
the
now.
brief
It's
respite.
yep.
The gods are no
All right.
longer angry.
Yeah, I know. Now we're back to normal. 73 is our normal high this time of year. Where is my PowerPoint? Let's see. Browse my computer. Let's see.
Yeah.
Indy.
If you
Shell.
send those to me afterwards, I can upload them and add them to the meetup.
Yep, absolutely. It should be
So
uploading right now.
I'll go ahead and mute. If anyone has any questions, throw them over in the chat. That way I can let Matt know that there's a question pending.
Yep, great. And
Great. Thanks, Matt.
you bet. Thank you, Ari. And so where this talk came from was it was a while back, and Ari and I have been trying to get together to do this presentation for a while. Is that Ari has asked me, what do you want to talk about? And I said, well, how about we talk about Shell? And way back then, Shell was something new. It's not the newest thing any longer. .NET MAUI is going to be the new hotness coming up, but Shell is still amazingly useful and amazingly it's like a shortcut. It's a shortcut to all the goodness in the world of development. And so what I wanted to do today is just kind of give everybody an overview of what Shell is, what Shell can do, and we're going to spend just a ton of time in code, not a lot of time in slides at all. And Ari, good news, I won't be reading the slides over and over again or verbatim off of it.
I just noticed that you're using that new uh, PowerPoint Live feature where you can change the slide while you're presenting. That's cool.
Yeah.
I now I
Uh-huh.
know what that does.
I'm also yeah, it's awesome. There also was a PowerPoint template, the Microsoft purple one. It must be just because I work for Microsoft, and with our PowerPoint subscription, we have like pre-baked in templates, and so I have
Oh,
this nice purple one that I didn't have to do any work to make up myself. So I look
nice.
professional without trying to look professional.
You slaved over this. That's what you did.
Yes.
Spared no
All right.
expense.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Okay, so Xamarin.Forms Shell, what is it? What it gives you though, and I'll read this verbatim, Ari, and this will be the last time. It gives you the ability to reduce the complexity of writing apps by providing the features that you need to use over and over and over again. So when we're writing mobile apps, a lot of times what we're going to need to do is that we're going to need to do things like write tabs across the bottom or tabs across the top, or do flyout navigation like the hamburger menu, or we're going to need to do navigation between pages, like we're going to need to do like stack-based navigation, or we're going to need to do modal navigation back and forth. And so what Shell does is that it provides this nice shell to handle a lot of that stuff for us. And so in one sentence, it reduces the complexity of writing apps by providing these features that lets us do stuff over and over again. And so what those features are is visual. And you see that little graphic there. I added tabs and flyouts on the stock image. So the visual stuff, it can give you tabs and flyouts that handles all the takes care of all the work for you. We're going to be spending a lot of our time when we write the code in just one page. So when we do our visual work, it does a lot of navigation for us, and it does a lot of searching for us too. And you'll see what I'm talking about searching in just a bit. So it's not going to like we're calling out to a web service to do any searching or anything like that, but it will let you search within lists on a page, like with a little toolbox or a search bar up top. So with that said, we're going to start talking about the visual stuff first. Flyouts, tabs, essentially UI made easy and customization of everything. And so one of the best things about Shell is that it lets you do everything either by hand or you can create custom renderers for it as well. So let me stop here, and Ari, I'll let you, I guess, run polls for me. Is how many people are already familiar with Xamarin-based development? a lot, little.
Just raise your hand if you're already familiar with Xamarin development. If you know how to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 out of 10. So 70%.
Okay, most people, great. So let's see, let's run this guy then. And so I'm just using VS Mac and running onto an iPod Touch simulator. And should roll up real quick. And so one quick thing when we start talking about Shell is a lot of my hot reload stuff doesn't work. It's just the nature of the game, and you'll see why in a second. So like if I go to my about page here and I'll say, hello Indy Xamarin or hello Indy Xam, you can see over here on my simulator, it updated right away. With when we start doing some changes in Shell, sometimes it hot reload updates, sometimes it doesn't. Just FYI, it's not that big of a deal, but it's just something to be noted about. Okay, so with that said, what we're going to do today is really just kind of create an application that kind of mimics a weather app, so to speak. And what I want to have here is just the ability to see like current conditions, extended forecast. Since I'm on the West Coast, I'm also going to want to see like smoke alerts and an about page. And I want that all to be nice and neat and organized in the UI. So here are all my pages. I already have them created. You know, they're really not much to the pages, but we're not really worried about what the pages can do themselves, but rather worried about how we can navigate between the pages and navigate to them and display the pages in a shell, so to speak. So with that said, what I'm going to do is, all right, here we go. All Xamarin Forms then kick off with an app.xaml page. And the app.xaml page takes care of starting up the Xamarin Forms. And it sets over a main page. And this main page is the thing that gets displayed straight away. And so right now I'm just having it display the about page. And that's what we saw before when we said hello Indy Xam. And so what I want to do now then to start with our shell page, I want to have a new shell displayed. And so that's what I want to do. And so in order to do that, obviously just file new, stop. I'm just going to call it app shell. And please feel free to interrupt at any time to ask questions as we go. So we're really just kind of giving a tour of everything we can do, so we can totally stop and talk as anything comes up that you might have questions about. All right, so app shell. So what I'm going to do here first is create a shell, a subclass of a shell, and I'm calling it app shell. And that's what I'm going to want to launch my new page off of. All right. So let's do this way, because I was actually practicing beforehand, like Ari said he did too. I'm going to make sure my app shell is deleted. All right. Let's try that again. Okay. So what I want to happen is I want to launch in when I go into Indy shell into my app shell. And so the first thing I need to do is create a page that inherits from the shell page. And that's going to actually be called, I'm calling it app shell. And it needs to inherit from shell. And it keeps on pulling something else in. So we're going to call it something else.
Ship it.
Yeah, right? I blame it on Visual Studio Mac. Ghosts in the system. My app shell. How about this? All right. It's a shell page. That's the whole point. We're just trying to do it from a shell, inherit from a shell. And so now we get this. So this is just XAML. And I'm going to get rid of this. Now this is my main shell page that I'm going to be using over and over again. And so then in my app, this is it. Instead of doing new about page, I'm going to do new my app shell. And so then when I start everything up, I should just get a blank screen. And I do. There's nothing there. And the reason why there's nothing there is because when I go into my app shell.xaml, there's nothing there to display. And so we're at our starting point now. This shell, this XAML here, we're going to spend the rest of the time, essentially, for the most part, writing our app shell, our app's UI, within this XAML file. And really, they're not going to be writing so much as we're just going to be describing it with XAML. We're going to be doing a lot of XAML work today and not a whole lot of actual heads down writing. And what's cool is that other than actually having to type out the XAML, Xamarin Forms and actually Xamarin.Forms Shell is going to take care of all the hard work for us. And so what I mean by that, let's actually get a page to display in here. And one way to do that then is this actually start going here, and I'll create my namespace so I can bring in local Indy shell. All right, and so what I want to do now is just, I'm going to add in my local page, or my about page is in local. And so it's not showing anything here, so I'm going to have to restart my app or rebuild it. And you're going to see when it pops in, I have the hello Indy Xam, but now it's not a full page anymore. It has the navigate bar at top and also has my little hamburger menu here. And if I slide out, it's already in a flyout menu. So just by wrapping this into a shell, putting that page in here, I have the whole thing. Now I have this like shell, for lack of a better word, going, and it's that easy to get up and running with it. Now, if I don't like that flyout just with one page, having a flyout doesn't really make a ton of sense. I could go about there and put a tab in. And I will have to restart real quickly. Now I'm telling Shell, right, I want a tab instead of a flyout menu. And it's going to, flyout menu is gone. I don't see any tab bars down below, but I only have one page here, so it's not going to give me one. But now I have just a regular, like we would start off with a regular navigation stack page. So Shell gives me a really clean, easy place to start my app with without having to do really any work at all as far as bootstrapping. And that's one of the, I guess, the key to understanding Shell at the get-go is that it does a lot of bootstrapping for you as far as the wrapping of the overall navigation of tabs or flyout menus. And so actually, let's get going then with some more of the flyout menus. That's what I want to talk about first, is how we can use Shell to really create kind of a cool experience with the flyout menus without writing any code. And I'm going to say that over and over again today, that we're not going to have to write any code. We're going to have to write XAML, but we're not going to have to write any code to do any of this work. And we're going to put in graphics, we're going to put in gradients and all that other good stuff, but we're not going to actually have to write any code to do it. Shell's going to take care of it for us. We're just going to have to describe essentially what we want to do. Okay, and so what we're going to do then is over here on my pages, like I said before, I have an about page, I have a current conditions page, and I have a smoke alert page. I'm going to want those to appear on my flyout menu. So to do that, all I need to have happen is this. And then we'll put the smoke alert page here. And then restart the app. So by default, What Shell does is it takes any page that I put in here and it assumes I want it in a flyout menu. And it's going to show the very first page first. So it showing me my current conditions page first. But when I open it up, you see it already has smoke alert wrapped up for me, and it has the about page wrapped up for me too. So now I have this nice little navigation system set up just by doing shell and popping a bunch of different pages into it.
Did
Yep.
that add a fade transition?
There is a transition in there for it too, and it's by default, and I could go in there and change that up if I wanted to. I don't remember the property name offhand, but yeah, it gives you that, and you can go in and change it out if you wanted to.
It looks
Or
nice.
if you,
I was like,
yeah,
oh,
or if you, yeah,
that.
or if you really wanted to change it, you could write custom renderers to get down to it and totally change it up. But
Thanks.
yeah, it does give you that little fade and transition, dissolved effect. So, all right. So what I want to do now is just kind of continue building on this. I want to kind of continue scaffolding out my app to make it look better and better. I have current conditions. I have smoke alert. I have about on a slide out menu. So far, so good, but we can do more than just that. And one of the things that you can do with Shell is that there's this flyout menu object. And so when you put one of these pages, just like this, like local smoke alert, Shell when goes through and assumes that you had put it into a flyout item. And so by explicitly putting it into a flyout item, it's the same as if I had not put it into a flyout item. But when I have it in there, I can start doing other cool things. So instead of just saying current conditions, I could say just current, or how about weather? Save it up and then restart it. And now my current conditions here on the title, which happens to be the title of the page itself. So Shell would pick that up and show it in the menu, in the flyout menu. But by wrapping it in the flyout item and changing the title, I can change what it displays here. And so what I'm talking about here now is how we can actually go about using Shell and tweaking it to do exactly what we want it to do. So we have that there, but we can also start adding in graphics as well. And so I already added some graphics to this project. And let's see, what do I want to call it? How about weather sunny high? How about that one? And it has a icon. So I can just do weather sunny high.png, save it, and does it show up for me right away? Nope. So this is where having Shell with hot reload would be great, but now we have it there working. It has the little graphic there appearing by its side too. So Shell is really customizable in this respect, just for the flyouts that we're getting with. So we can also do what's called a flyout backdrop. And that's going to be let's call it gray for now. I'll restart it. The stuff that slides over. So when the flyout slides over, it's going to gray out the backdrop. You can see now it's gray instead of just being white as before. So now we can actually start seeing it doing work, and it looks more like a application that you might be used to. I mean, we could make it red instead. So now it's red instead of gray, but it's up to us. Or we could actually do something like, and I'm just kind of going off of here how customizable it is. Shell.flyout backdrop. Let's just say, well, how about Alice Blue? And you can see we got the gradient that goes there behind it as well. So you can really do a ton of different things with the styling of Shell. I mean, we're just talking about the backdrop here. And if you can imagine all the different type of work I would have to do to make this work, all the coding I have to do to make this before, and now it's just there. And it's, it's just super easy. It's actually just trying to remember what the XAML looks like. I mean, I don't have to worry about anything else. It just works for me. Um, and so yeah, there's just a ton of other things that we can do as well. So let me do one thing here. Is one thing that also often comes up is like, let's take our smoke alert page. Let's say, of course it disappears. Our smoke alert page would be if it has like a lot of network requests. So, but just by having something referenced in a shell page like this, or like this, Shell's going to load it up automatically. It's going to put it in memory right away. So what we would want to do is have it so it doesn't create it. It lazy loads it. So Shell can lazy load stuff as well. And by what we could do with that is that you wrap it into shell content object. And by saying shell content template, equal like so. What this is going to do is that now that smoke alert page doesn't actually get loaded until we show it, till we actually decide that we want to actually see it. So I go through and I'm going to actually have to add a title to it to see it. And so that was a good way to actually just demonstrate that we weren't seeing it before. Is I'll just say smoky. Is because before when it was empty, there was no, it wasn't loaded up. It wasn't grabbing the title off the smoke alert page. But once we got to it, and then the title appeared there. So that's cool in that we can delay the loading of the page itself, so it frees up resources so our app can actually load up faster like that. And actually, it'd probably be good practice for me to wrap everything in this shell content template to do it so, but it's more typing, and so I won't do it that way. But it's kind of neat in how we can actually make things lazy load like
Hey,
that.
Matt,
Hmm.
once it has loaded it, this is interesting. Does it retain state or does it lose it if you wrap it as a template?
It will, when you say retain state between loading of the app, or
No, like between switching, let's say you switch between weather and then you went back to smoke alert, would it reload it from scratch next time you went back to that view?
no,
Or, okay, so it
no,
just does it once.
just once. Once you
Gotcha.
got it, you got it. It
Gotcha.
just it
Is that
doesn't load it at app startup.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
you said that there's a ahead of time compilation was the other feature it had, right?
Right. And so for iOS, it will ahead of time compile. And so that's just the way your app works. With Android, it just in time compiles.
Okay.
So with this, by doing like the data template, if I understand the question, is that it's not running the on. Let me open one of these guys up.
I thought there was a ahead of time compilation for Android if you chose it.
Yeah. Yes. So essentially, what will happen is that by the putting it into the data template, you're not going to be running into this function right away. Essentially, you're not getting the constructor called on it. It's still compiled and everything, but you're not actually inflating it, so to speak. So all right. So back in here, we can also do a lot more with this flyout itself to make it, I guess, to style it a little bit better. We can add a header to it. And the header, let me actually try this. That did work. You see that showed up right away. I'm not sure why some does, some don't, but. So by using there's two ways to add a header. You can use the shell flyout header template and then just add everything right in line here, which I did, or you could use a shell.flyout header and reference a view outside of this, like in a different file. But for this sake, we'll use this flyout header template. And what this is I just popped in a grid here with a gradient behind it, putting in an image and just saying weather for, let's just say, Indy weather. That way. So now we have a overall header on there as well. And then you can do the same with a footer, should you want to. And that was going to look like, and we'll just do label. And we probably have to restart to see that. But this gives us the ability to add a header and a footer. Again, we're not doing any work to actually make it work. We're just describing it in our XAML. And you can see we have our and I can't make it get centered horizontal. Yeah. All right. So yeah, there we have it with the flyouts. There is more I could do, like I could change the the coloring behind here of the selected rows as well. I could change the overall background of the shell. Let's see, let's do this here. If I do background, and here we see, start that like that. So I can really do a lot of customizations just by using my XAML. And so yeah, it's very customizable without being customizable at all. I mean, it gives you a lot of options to do, but you still are going to stay within. You got your header, you have your footer, and you put your options down here for your different navigation stacks, and that's what you do. So it gives you what is, but as long as you don't want to write a custom renderer, and you stay within that area of what you see here, you're not going to have to do a lot of hard coding at all in order to get this to work for you. And through 95% of your use cases, you're really not going to have to stray from writing XAML or your basic C# at all. So that is the flyouts for Shell. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll bring it back up to make it look a little bit better without that green, are tabs. All right. So like our weather, we have current conditions, but we totally could have, in addition, like extended forecast and like a detailed discussion. And the best place to do those, because they're all related, they're not like totally separate, would be in a tab layout. And so you can actually mix those in as well within a shell page. So let me do that here. All right. So what I'm going to do is then within my flyout item, I'm just going to start popping things into tabs. So I'm going to have a local current conditions tab. Oops. And we'll do extended, and we'll have a detailed. Restart my page. And you can see there is the tab bar down there right now, but it's empty. But I can click on things and it is changing. Cool. So like before, when it is empty, that means I could must have to start changing it on the shell page itself. But to quickly call out though, all I had to do to add the tabs to it was just within that flyout item, wrap my pages within tab nodes. So I'm going to add titles to all of them. And let's see if I can have it come up. There we go. All right, so current and extended came up and there comes detailed as well. So now it's going pretty easy. Same thing with icons. I can do icon equals, let's see, weather, partly, cloudy, day.png, save it. And there that pops up. Same thing over here. So it's really starting to become easy to build this up and have it look really good without, again, doing much work. And I'm going to say that over and over again, like not having to do much work. Oops, PNG. And did I name it wrong? Text underscore description. There it is. And so then when I go back and forth, it actually is making things highlighted as it should as well. So one thing though is actually super cool that I didn't know Shell could do until I ran into it is so within this tab, so within our current conditions tab, I can actually go ahead and I'll add another page into here. Now, Ari, I'm going to ask you, do you know what's going to happen now? I'm going to call you out because
actually create a menu.
it's going to actually create a top tab for me, which is
Oh, that's interesting. Let's see.
pretty neat right there. So now I have a top tab within my bottom tab of everything.
Yeah,
So
no way this could get hairy.
what's that?
No way this could get hairy.
So we are getting a lot of XAML here, and I don't know if you ever would have flyout along with bottom tabs, along with top tabs, but one thing that could be pretty neat is, let me do this, is that you could do That's funny. It reverted back to its previous self, like the first incarnation.
It might have thought that it can no longer compile it.
Yeah. Is you can create a application that just has top tabs on iOS like that, which is
Huh.
pretty neat to do with relative, easy work. And then I could also do something like
Can those each have icons too
on
on those top tabs?
that I don't know. Oops. I don't think so. Not without running a renderer for it.
Hmm.
Or there is a whole tab view within the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which might be able to work. So here I got rid of the navigation bar across the top. So now the top tabs are my very top itself. So it's actually just kind of a cool look for, 4 lines of XAML to do something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know we talked about that a while ago, Ari. So now it's super easy to do.
I like super easy.
Yep.
Super easy. Super easy is super.
All right. So let's actually go back to where we were before. I'll stop. So that's one of the things I like about Shell is that you do get to kind of just experiment around with how things lay out and see how you can work. All right, so I'll restart it. As you can see that we haven't changed what our core application does at all. We're still, Shell really is a shell. We're just changing how things sit within our application. All right, so now we're back. It looks like we are before. We have just a lot of a lot of heaviness around it, so to speak. All right, and like doing this, the shell content template, I can do that anywhere to make things lazy load as well by doing this syntax. I can put that in within my tabs as well, which is nice. And like I said, I should be doing that wherever I do it as well. So that is real quick on the tabs. Oh, what you can also do for tabs as well, and we should do this, is you can change the colors super easy on them too. So let's just do tab, tab bar. Now I don't know why VS Mac does not want to have its IntelliSense pop up here for me. Let's just do, how about disk? So change the tab background color there. And we can also change the tab bar. What's it called? Title color. So this will change the text. We'll change that to red. Oh, dark red. And might need to be a refresh. And then a tab bar. What is it called? Unselected color. And we'll make that I don't know, lime. All right, I'll restart
Always
it.
a good choice.
Yeah, I know. We're just going to make it ugly, which is my wheelhouse. And
We
so
have
when
a
this
papaya whip color.
I
never
know.
even
I
had
picked that just because.
That just
And
sounds
so now,
great. I'm hungry
yep,
now.
sounds delicious. And so there we have it. Just by changing that stuff, you can make it pretty, I
Well,
guess.
that's beautiful.
And oh, I should before I leave, you know how we had the oops. Right here we had our gradient background. Whenever it popped out, it was the white to black gradient. What I could do though on my flyouts, if for whatever reason, if I wanted to make it a different Let's shell the background. Flyout backdrop equals green. And that's on smoky. I can make a change per flyout item as well. So you can actually, everything that we set way up here, we can actually set on the individual items too. So why? Because you can, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it totally gives you a lot of flexibility and options of what you wanted or what you can do on it. And so I can change the nav bar colors, the sub nav bar up here colors. I can change the I guess the hamburger menu icon. Everything I can modify. I can even put a title view in here instead of current conditions. I can actually put like a logo image into there as well, should I want to. So it's, I guess the world is my oyster as far as that goes. Okay, so the next
Or the
thing I want to
world
talk.
is your shell.
Nice. I set you up. I'm glad you took
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I take the easy ones.
Yep. So the next thing I want to talk about though is navigation. So we have this basic navigation already built in for us. It kind of, it works. It does great. But right here, we go to the smoke alerts and we see that all these cities have a smoke alert, but I click on them and nothing happens. And so what I want to have happen, what I want to do is I want to have my smoke detail page show up. And so usually that's as easy as just doing, a navigation.push and navigation.pop. We can do more with Shell though, and this is going to be kind of just an easy example of what we're doing, but excuse me, you should be able to see how it'll scale. And so this is called URI routing or navigation with URIs. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually navigate from this screen here, the city screen, to the detail screen based off of essentially a URL. And it's actually pretty neat on how it works. And so the first thing that I'm going to want to do in order to make that happen is register my smoke detail page as a destination, essentially. So what I do is I say routing dot register route, and then I'm going to give it a name. So I'm just going to say smoky, and I'm going to say type of and smoke detail page. So now I'm saying eventually I'm going to call smoky. I'm going to say route to smoky, navigate to the word smoky. And the shell navigation backend is going to be smart enough to say, all right, I'm going to load up smoke detail page for you. So then the smoky word is going to be become important for me. And so I loaded up this routing in the constructor of the my app shell class. So there's other ways we can do routing, other ways you can set it up. I like to be explicit and do it all here by hand. That's my preference. So you can actually have it set up and do it within the app shell, where you can actually tell it routes here. It's one of the few times I don't like using XAML to do that. I like just having it all in the app shell all in one spot. Mainly, a lot of times because XAML is very verbose and it could get lost. Here I just have one place to go and I can see everything set up if I want. Plus, like this smoke detail page won't ever make an appearance in the app shell class in that XAML. So it's good to just see everything there. So long story short, I'm registering my smoke detail page to the keyword smoky, and I'm going to want to navigate to it. So how do I navigate to it? All right. So I have in my smoke alert page, it's just a collection view, and it actually has a view model bound to it behind the scenes. And the view model does this. All right. Right now, when the view smoky details command gets invoked, it's just awaiting a completed task. It's essentially doing nothing at this point. But what I want to have happen is I want it to go somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say await shell.current.go to async smoky. All right, cool. So let's just see this work once. Come on. It's funny how it does take longer to build when I change C# than when it does when I change XAML. That's interesting. All right, so when I go over to Smoky and I click on Kirkland, cool, I get to my page, and that's just by saying shell.current.go to async Smoky. Great. Not too much different than saying, navigation push, but let's say I did something like the following. I'll back out of here and I'll go into my smoke detail page. And I can actually say shell.presentation mode modal. Then save it. Maybe have to rebuild it. And you can see now it actually comes up and presents modally full screen over the top. Cool, right? However, right now I'm stuck because I don't have my back button any longer. But what's nice though is in my XAML and my UI for this page, it tells me right here that this page is going to be presented modally all the time. So I mean, I know that. That's kind of cool. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go create a button. Then down here, we'll just say button text equals disappear. Oops. I'll just do a clicked new handler and we'll do font size. Title. Hopefully we'll be able to see it. And then we'll go back here. Smoke detail page. Now this is important, or actually just super cool. Is I can just do shell current. Make everything async first. Shell that current, go to async. ... It's like going back up a directory because I don't know how this page might have gotten displayed because I don't have my back button. I'll just say ... and it's going to pop it off the stack and go to whatever displayed for me. So let me restart it.
I think Sam has a question.
Yep.
Sam, let me see if I can unmute you. Allow mic. There we go. Cool. Now you should be able to talk.
Thank you. This is a beginner's programming question. A step back, you did async for the method. Why did you do that? And I know I don't mean to take
right
up
here?
your time. Yeah, right there.
No, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. So right here, when I mark this async, that's telling a C# compiler to expect this to have an await keyword within it. And so what that await keyword means is that essentially something asynchronous is going to happen within it. And so that I'm going to try to so what await does is that it returns the control of the application back out to the main. It doesn't lock the application. Like, so if this here took forever to happen, the application would get locked and eventually the operating system would kill it, would shut it down because it took too long. So by saying await here is that it's saying, all right, you know what, go back out and, the user can still use the application. You can do whatever you want with it. It's still responsive. But when this operation is done, we could have, console.write here like that. So it's going to say, this might take forever to do. I know it's going to take forever to do it. Run it. Have the application still being cool. It's still good. And then when it's done, when this big long line is done running, come back here and then continue on. So all this is doing then is telling the compiler, you're going to see this await coming up somewhere in there. And so just know about it. So it's asynchronous programming, async await. You'll hear that referred to as.
Yeah, so asynchronous programming in C# uses async await. You can't use an await keyword in a function that doesn't say it's asynchronous because they go together. Now, this is ever more important in mobile development because in mobile development, application user interface responsiveness is huge. Not so much a big deal in Windows, right? I think we've all seen the Windows application that the app just goes gray when it's doing a long running operation. Well, that's because it's not running an asynchronous operation. It's running a synchronous operation. So it blocks what's called the UI thread, which is the user interface thread. So async and await let you say, hey, go handle this task, but then return control back to, say, the UI thread or the caller, so that if it has anything else it needs to do, like update the UI, it can do that while this long running task is occurring. And so you await the result, which is what, but you have to specifically say it's asynchronous. Otherwise you can't do it.
Otherwise, got it. Thank you. That helps a whole lot.
And I think someone put in, the concepts of async on Microsoft documentation. I think the first time you play with it, it seems difficult, but if you just make it part of what you usually do, it's not difficult. But you do have to get used to it. And we could do a whole presentation on async and whether it's good in all cases or bad in others. It's actually amazingly cool what's happening behind the scenes when you do. So I'm going to go past the beginner question, but just to explain, when you do that, when you say await, behind the scenes, when it compiles, an entire state machine is created to manage that task running asynchronously and then eventually returning the result back to the application. So behind the scenes, a whole bunch of code is written to manage that asynchronous operation. To you, it's just, I'm going to await this and it will come back to me. But when you compile it, it's syntactic sugar for building out asynchronous support in .NET in a super easy to use fashion. It hides all the complexity from you. And right now we're running asynchronously in Teams. You've got a video running, you've got the chat running, you've got maybe you've got uploads occurring, you've got a presentation. Those are multiple threads, but they're interrelated. So async, your mom runs asynchronous. That's funny. She does, and you await her return. All right, thank you. So task or threading and asynchronous operations will go hand in hand, but we could definitely talk about that in another conversation. Well, that's a whole 90-minute conversation, probably more.
Way more.
Yeah. Thomas, afterwards, if you want, we could talk about why everything isn't async by default. Not everything needs to be async. Yeah. You're not always waiting for 2 + 2. So why would you thread that out? Okay, sorry about that, Matt.
Oh,
Hopefully
no problem.
that answered all the questions.
In the links I put at the end, I'll put in one more from my coworker Brandon Minnick has a great async await talk that he gives, and I think there's a recording of it, so I'll track that down and pop it in there. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think
Or
there's another presentation that was done in the Indy.net consortium that talked about async and await, talking about all the different ways that it works. I think that, or I'm thinking it was like, Kansas City Code or whatever it was, KCDC. I don't remember.
they all blur
There's-
together.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So now we're able to go up, we're able to disappear. Neat, right? But you know what? I go up and I see, Bellevue just shows me a bunch of fire that's smoky. I don't see, what actually is happening. So there's more I can do here. All right. So this is where the URL type navigation gets really, really kind of cool here. And so what I want to do is, you see, I'm getting past in my selected city. This is all part of how the collection view works. I have this bound up to the selected item on the collection view. And so what I'm going to do here is that's going to say city equals selected city. And then I'm going to say this. $, Smoky equals city name equal that city. That right here. So now I'm not just saying navigate to Smoky. I'm saying pass it a parameter of city name with my city as the value. So it looks like, a URL with a query string appended to it. Neat. All right. And so in order to get it over here on this side of things, I have to put in a query property on it. And let's actually put in a property first, string, we'll just call it city name. Okay. So I'm going to put in a query property here saying, all right, when you get newed up class, expect a query property or a query string to be sent to you. And I'm going to say city name. And when you do get something, when you get something called city name, send it to the property, in this case, city name. So that's what this is telling Shell to do. Cool. All right, so then over here, I am going to do then this. Is I'm going to see what my label is called, city name label. And I'm just going to say value is Smoky. There. So now when this gets called, it sees the city name value being passed in the query string. It's going to call this property. This property then in a set is going to set the text value of that label. And so it's going to say whatever city name happens to be is Smoky. Build it and run it again. And let's say Redmond. Redmond and Smoky. Cool. So, I mean, this is actually super powerful here that I'm able to actually pass values into a page without having like in a constructor. I mean, I have a property to it, but I'm not explicitly, I don't know what the property's name is, essentially. I'm just passing it in a URL string, and I don't have to pass it either. If I don't have it, this doesn't ever get called here. And so it's a little bit not like a property as we would use it normally in a regular C# class, in that in this set, I'm actually kind of doing some logic here. But it's kind of cool and how that works. And so I am
Hey,
now
Matt,
navigating
question.
using shell.current go to async with smoky city name query string.
Yeah.
So, Ari?
We did have a question. So how do you kick off extra data loading async when a parameter is passed? So you pass a unique key and want to retrieve data for that model based on the key.
All right. So it'd be coming into here, right? So we pass in the key here. Now, this is actually already loaded up. The page is already up in memory. And so you have it actually in the city name. So you can actually treat city name now as a function. And we could start, then you could kick off something here. You can actually do a task dot system dot. Actually, what I would do here is, because we're in a page, I would actually go to the view model then and run a command on the view model. And we can actually have an async command there, and I would kick that off asynchronously. So long story short is here, you would actually kick it off from the set portion of the property that you're using it as the key. And I would have the async command do your work for you. So the view smoky details in this case, you can have execute async. You can call that then. So but it all
You
gets
could also, do a task.start, or
right.
could you do something with on appearing, since at that point city would have been populated? I think that's where you could do an async on appearing and do something that's a bit fancier, where you put a please wait indicator in there and then kick off the task, and then hand a completion event action that then turns off the please wait indicator, and your data has loaded. That way you're not waiting for the data to load before anything appears.
Right.
So you want to be careful about that in a mobile app, that if nothing appears to be happening, the user is going to think it crashed.
Yeah, the old joke was that mobile development is half animation to hide while you're waiting for work to be done. So, yeah. You always want to make sure that the user knows that something's happening. And that's the same thing with the whole asynchronous and the UI thread that Ari was talking about before, is that you want the app to be responsive as well. Yeah. So even if you do have the little spinner going and the spinner kind of just stays there and it doesn't react somehow, it's still
it's a balancing act. The user experience in mobile apps, you can't approach it like building a Windows, like a generic Windows app. Users expect things to happen quickly in a mobile application. Otherwise, they think something's wrong, because it's very instant gratification. Applications tend to be very utility focused. They do one thing really well. Yep. So if you do a whole bunch of stuff, you should make it, very clear. Hey, this operation may take a long time, and you should have like a cancellation token. And so that if they go back, you cancel the long running operation, because why keep running it? Lots of things to think about. But if you ever run into a scenario where you've got a very long running operation in a mobile app, my advice generally would be rethink, why do I have this? Could I break it up into different steps? Could I start returning certain results earlier? So maybe instead of waiting for an entire report that has like 10 items, have 10 requests running asynchronously on maybe 10 different endpoints, and each of them brings back a value. And then you could spin all those tasks off and then update the UI as they come back. That might look better, and you're not waiting on the longest running operation. The user sees data and they're like, oh, okay, things are happening. Yeah, just like Facebook does that. Things load asynchronously. Hold on, we had a few other questions come in. Just to be sure, though, if we do use the on-appearing method, the city name is already filled in by Shell, right? And yeah, I think at that point, city name's already filled out, right?
Right. On appearing, city name will. Let's see what happens here.
Just put a debugger
Yeah.
break for that.
And
I think you got to
okay.
recompile since you had a code.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see who wins.
And I saw your questions, Andre and Matt. We're just answering this question first, then we'll get to Andre, then Matt.
Yep. City name wins. And obviously on appearing is second.
Yeah. So Andre has a question. Will Shell be available in Maui, or will it be replaced by another component derived from iWindow?
So Maui Shell is not going anywhere. So like Xamarin.Forms, but Shell is a part of Xamarin.Forms. So if you started developing right now with Shell, you'd still have it. There is going to be in Maui.NET Maui Shell as well, but it's not going to be the same one. That makes sense. So how's the best thing to phrase it, I guess? Yes, is the answer that it's going to be there, but it's going to be there a little bit differently because everything else is changing as well with it. But there's going to be a nice easy on ramp to move forward. So yeah,
could you mostly transition with ease,
yeah,
like
yeah.
almost function by function?
I mean, it should be even easier than function by function. So I mean, that's
Okay.
that's part of the goal is to make the transition from Xamarin.Forms over to Maui be as seamless as possible. So
Okay. Great. So I'm guessing that would be more performant anyway, because it'd be part of the rewrite.
yeah.
Matt had a question. I'm curious about this as well. Is there a way to pass an object through the URI navigation, or would you need to serialize it or use some other technique?
My initial, when I heard the question, was to put it into a JSON string and then reinflate it. But yeah, that's the only way to do it because it's going to have to be a string, right?
If it's
So
URI, I imagine.
yeah, yep. So I had done something similar where I a real easy one where I put it down into some JSON and then brought it back up. Just kind of like a key value pair. And you can pass more than one query parameter. You can append a bunch of them to it. But yeah, you would have to. My initial thought was you would have to serialize it in a JSON, pass it in a JSON, which you can URL encode them all. Then once you get it over, decode it and then reinflate it, deserialize it.
So would it automatically typecast? So if you had, let's say, city ID, would you say public int city ID, and then it would just automatically try to cast it as an integer, like an int.parse?
Let's play this game. All right, public int city ID.
Try and get away from the JavaScript approach of everything's an object.
Yeah. All right, we'll just do city name. We'll just do this. How about this? And then let's just do, how about, all right. So I'm going to create a new object too, a new class, and just call it city. And we're going to see
You
what
need the
happens.
string interpolation.
Yep. And then we're going to actually need a class too. All right. So we'll try city ID first. First, we'll go like this though. You know what? I don't think using city is going to work at all, because how am I going to, well, let's just see if I can.
Yeah, I don't know that it would automatically
Yeah.
JSON encode it.
All right. So let's do city ID. Nope.
Ship it.
All right, here we go. City ID values 2. All right, so it does work for
Oh,
ints.
good.
A-okay. But yeah, for a I don't think it's gonna like this at all. I'm not sure. Yeah, we would have to JSON deserialize it, pop it in, and reserialize it. Yeah, I don't. That's not gonna work. We would have to actually do something with it first. So, yeah.
Well, at least we tried.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Let me see if there's any others that I'm missing. No, Matt mentioned the same thing. You need to serialize the object.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that auto supports JSON deserialization.
No, I don't think so. I know it will automatically if you go this way with using query properties, it will automatically URL decode it. But yeah, it won't. Yeah, not JSON deserializing. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Put in a PR.
Yeah, ship it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll accept it though with forms, but maybe for Maui.
Maybe from Maui. Yeah. Huh. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you could determine that it wasn't one of like the base types, like if you couldn't cast it to int or to string, and its base type was something other than those two, then you could try deserializing it and then casting it as the particular type. But because I'm guessing that's all generics, so maybe I don't know. I don't know how that engine works. That'd be a cool PR. Yeah. There you go, Matt. You could write it. Thomas has a question. Is there a limit on query string length?
I don't know.
I can
I don't
tell
know.
you it probably can't be bigger than 2 gigabytes.
Yeah.
That's the maximum size of string in .NET.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. My guess is that my gut feeling is that you're going to want to use pretty much the same thing that you use for like when you're passing to constructors and stuff like that. You're just going to want to pass like IDs and names. You're not going to want to pass huge amounts of data.
Yeah.
Pass what you need to reinflate on the other side.
And you could always have a lookup service. When you pass an ID through, if it's an expensive object, go asynchronously look it up and then return control back to the UI. Why waste all that time doing the JSON, serialization and deserialization? Yeah, I mean, you could do, like Thomas said, you could use a singleton, you could use a lookup service, but that you got to code smart,
Yep.
And it'll just be easier to manage too. Like dealing with all those strings and everything is just not just overhead that you might not notice on these like octa-core phones, but
Right.
just from a overhead perspective, memory utilization and just complexity, what are you really passing?
Mm-hmm. And generally, you're just going to want to pass one key, just the primary key to whatever you're after, is ideally.
And then cache anything that is a long running load, so
Mhm.
go get like monkey cache or something.
Yep. Okay.
Does using shell to navigate mean we won't need to use navigation page anymore?
No, you can mix and match whatever. So if you decide to go with shell navigation, you can start with it, or you can mix it in. You can make a hard cutover. You can rip all your old stuff out. Whatever you want to do, they both work together. So
Cool. Any other questions? Okay.
all right.
Well, hey, thank you very much, Matt.
Oh no, I got one more thing, Ari.
No,
One
no,
more.
no, that's it. Closing
All
meeting.
right. All right.
Oh, there is a question. What resources do you recommend for learning Xamarin?
Oh, for learning Xamarin all up. That's a
Both
good
Microsoft,
question.
non-Microsoft.
Non-Microsoft. Well, for Microsoft stuff is that we do have the Microsoft Learn
Yeah, which
stuff.
is great.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to get better for Maui. I say that because I'll be in charge of it, so I guarantee you it will be good for Maui. It'll be a good experience. If you're looking for non-Microsoft stuff, I think it's all the usual suspects out there as far as like a Pluralsight type deal. If you want to go that route, to be quite honest, the learned stuff for pure Xamarin is getting a little bit long in the tooth. And that's one reason why we're going to really rewrite all of it. But yeah, that's the way I would go. It's still going to give you everything that you need to know, though, for getting started. Like I think we're missing a shell module in there, to be quite honest with you. So
I don't think we do either.
yeah,
Eric ran into a bug in the Xamarin Learn, so that might be a good thing to maybe you could follow up with Matt, Eric,
yeah,
and let him know what that was.
Yeah, either hit me up on Twitter or send me an email.
He's at CodeMillMatt.
Yep.
Oh, my friend just showed up, as everyone can hear.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. We can definitely get those fixed, and there's new ones that will be taking that place. But yeah, so either that or you know what? A great place also is all the Xamarin shows that James is doing. and Gerald is putting out now, and like David are putting out is as they're gearing up for .NET MAUI and everything. So that's also a really good place to go and learn stuff. Actually, the Xamarin shows are great because he's doing a lot of bite size stack bites, essentially, of how to do this A, B, and C. So those are great places to go and learn too. So I do really, I mean, I'm kind of biased, but I like this content that we're putting out on our, what I'll call our first party properties like docs.microsoft.com or Channel 9 stuff. So, but yeah, and you can always contact me if you have any questions or whatnot that you want to run by or ask about, and I can always point you in the right direction if I can't answer them.
Yay. All right. What was the next part for you, Matt?
Oh, yeah. Let's see here.
And just, hey, everyone, you can also hear Matt and James on the Xamarin Podcast. That comes
That's
out every
right.
month or so. So definitely subscribe to that. It's a great podcast.
Yeah, the second Friday of every month. Yep, pick of the pod. And the fourth Friday of every month, we do a, I guess, a customer success story where we talk with some people who have built an app with Xamarin and what they liked and didn't like. And we talked with the Oscars, who the actual Oscars app, like how they view movies and all that stuff is built with Xamarin. American Airlines, Seeing AI, and a lot of really cool apps have been built with Xamarin. And we talk with the developers on what the challenges and stuff that they made. So, and on the Xamarin, the second one of the month is when we bring David Ortnow in to give us the latest and greatest on MAUI updates. So it's pretty much been the David show lately, but as well it should be, because that's where all the news is coming from lately. So,
yep.
All right. So then the last thing I wanted to show here is that in a smoke alert, we have a lot of cities listed, and the good way we want to be able to just like filter it down to see just what we want. And Shell gives us another way to do that with a little search bar on top called, well, the search screen. And where is it? Okay, so I actually went ahead and I created, a search handler already. And so the search handler is a shell thing. And what you have to do here is you have to override two things. OnQuery changed, and we'll handle that first. Let's just talk about that. Is that when the query changes, when someone actually starts typing into the search box, you get an old value and a new value. And so essentially, and then the item source is the list that's being displayed. And so really what you're going on here is just saying if the new value coming in, if it's null, we're just going to say the item source is empty. Otherwise, I'm looking in my list of overall cities. If it's in there, just return the cities that contain it, whatever I entered. Make that the item source. So I'm just filtering down. That's what this onQuery change does. And then there's another method I have to override. It's called onItemSelected. And this is the only code I really have to override to use Shell, well, other than the navigation. And all I'm saying here on item selected is I have to do this, which is kind of a task.delay, because there's some animation that plays and I want to delay it so the animation is done first before I navigate away. So essentially all I'm doing is my item that comes in here is going to be a city name. And I'm just saying, navigate the smoky city name item, and away we go. So then to implement it, then I go like this. Let's actually make it a little bit bigger. Shell.searchhandler, like that, and it's just local city search handler. And then it's going to be cities equals, and then this is x static local. How about city data, city names? All right, so this is just a dictionary or a list of city names. Saying that, and then I'm going to say placeholder. So it actually says search for city. And then I'm going to say show results equals true. All right. Let's rebuild this thing. So this is on my page here. I'm saying, you know what, set me up a search handler. Use this one. Oh, I have a build error. Where is it? Oh, we were goofing around before and I didn't clean up after myself. All right, here we go. So I go back to my smoke details, my smoky. You can see now it says search for city, and I'll just enter a vowel, and we can see we got a bunch of them. I'll go back out and I'll hit S, EA. So I'll do Port Townsend, and it comes back out and says Port Townsend is smoky. So that's pretty neat, and that sits up there on top. It's independent of what's down below, and I can actually modify the things that are, when I say things, this list view, I can change the way it looks too if I wanted to as well. So that actually is a really neat way for me to implement search functionality into the app. So there we go. That's the last thing I wanted to show with Shell, is getting a nice little quick search for what's in a list. And there we have it, Ari. Any questions?
Nice.
I have
I don't see any additional questions unless, oh, is someone talking? Oh, Sam's talking. I should never unmuted him.
You shouldn't have. I have an related question. You're working on Maui. Are you familiar with Uno?
A little bit. I won't claim to be an expert at it or with it at all. But
do you think I should learn? Yeah, are you saying, should I learn Maui or should I learn Uno?
Well, I'm going to be biased and tell you should learn Maui, but I think you should learn both.
Oh,
because it
lovely.
always, it doesn't hurt to learn more. They both, Uno's a great platform, no doubt about it. So yeah, it's hard. You're not going to go wrong either way. You're really not.
I thought that there was some overlap with Maui that the Uno team, I think, was trying to work with Microsoft on some integration there, but I don't know how far those talks ever got.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be on David's side where he would know more about it. But really, I mean, as far as like learning, I don't know I'll just call Uno a platform.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to know it. I mean, you won't go wrong knowing it. So if you have this time to know it, by all means, I think it'd be a great investment. So.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Eric was asking if we get a list of resources to learn and follow up on the Meetup page. So, Matt, if you know of some of the best ones, that would be great. And I see, you've got a QR code there.
Oh, you bet I do.
If you could just share that with me,
Yep.
I'll make sure we get those slides up on there, and then that should answer your question there, Eric. Any other questions? All right. Well, hey, Matt, as always, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Hopefully I can get out to Seattle sometime soon and see you.
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be great. Yeah.
One day. I do want to head over there. There's all these, I actually have a number of friends out there, so it'd be great to see you.
Yeah, it'd be great. That'd be awesome.
So I just gotta get up there. I'm actually going to Kansas City. If you're going to be in Kansas City, meet up with you.
I'm not going. No plans. But,
traveling so strange these days, so that'll be fun. Great. So thanks again. Hopefully, we can have you back sometime soon. Great presentation, learned a lot. And just so everyone knows, we'll be taking this recording and we'll put it up on the Indy Xamarin Meetup page. So all you got to do, navigate to the particular Meetup, and that's always where I put the link. It's going to be right there. Yay. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Matt. Everyone, make sure that you subscribe to the Visual Studio, the Xamarin Podcast, pardon me. And it's great. And see you next month.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yay. All right.